Okay, so good morning, everyone. I hope you all can hear me well and see me and Andress here.
Yes, good
So
morning.
welcome to another ARA AMA, as we're starting to call it. I hope you are doing well. So as you can see, you have a little bit of a pleasure this morning because it's not only me speaking with you, but also my friend and fellow instructor, Andress Castillo. For those of you who don't know me, my name is John Asimacopoulos. I am one of the figure instructors and the anatomy instructor at ARA Boston, and Andress is a fellow drawing instructor.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here.
As far as the format goes, some of you may already have joined some AMAs, but it's pretty open, so feel free to put up your hand and I can call out names if people can unmute themselves, or you can, if you don't feel like speaking through the mic, you can just type a question in the chat and we'll keep an eye on that. And as far as topics, anything goes. Ask us about classes, about the school, workshops, what Andress and I are working on, music, anything.
There you go.
Hi, John. How are you? I'm Rippy.
Hi, Rippy. Good to hear from you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good to see you again. I had many questions. Do I start?
Please go ahead.
Okay. So I have been actually experimenting with different kind of canvases recently. What's your process of to prepare a canvas? Like if it's linen or if it's a cotton, like what's the type of canvas you like more to do realistic paintings?
Right. What type of canvas? So it has varied for me over the years. I take the less work route where I usually buy the linen that already has a ground on it. My go-to is Clason's, and I usually work on like a fine or very fine texture. At least for the most of my student years. Then after I graduated, I like Odd Nerdrum, the artist Odd Nerdrum, and I heard that he was using what's called the herringbone linen. It's a very thick linen, very tough, good for being a little bit more aggressive with it, which I was looking for because I was doing these larger paintings. So I got some of that herringbone linen. I tried that out for a bit, but it was already, I just had to stretch it really. And now I'm currently working on Artifex's panels that have linen glued to them. And again, it's just a basic, very fine texture linen. Beyond that, I have experimented using grounds just straight onto panel, but as far as sizing linens and all that, I haven't really gotten into it. What were you thinking? Were you trying to try out some new things, or?
That's actually really nice. Honestly, I actually work on cotton a lot, and here in my area, I don't get to find the primed canvases here a lot, so I have to like prepare them from very scratch. So one of my friends who's living in London right now, so he uses this technique using rabbit skin glue and things like that to smoothen the canvas and everything. Personally, I love linen canvas, but I don't get that a lot. And the only canvas I get here is cotton canvas, and I actually don't like it. How was your experience with cotton canvases?
It's been a while since I've used them, but I say it was fine. I mean, I don't love the cheaper ones you get, but they're obviously ones that are a little bit better than that. So yeah, no, in the end, it all works really.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, you can also like find rolls of the pre-primed linen, everything just ready to go, and then you can just stretch it. Actually, here in the academy, I have one big roll. It's like, I don't know how big, how many feet or how many yards are they.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, you can find like really big things, and all you're gonna have to do is just stretch it. Also, I think John was doing something with the ACM panels that you were
Uh-huh.
testing with the gesso
Oh,
and everything. So if you don't
yeah,
want to use,
it's
yeah,
beautiful actually. I
yeah,
didn't try the SCM from the artifacts, but I went to the shop where they sell aluminium sheets.
Hmm.
So I made my own SCM panel and it was
exactly.
beautiful. The textures was beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also like you'll be testing how you like it, if you want more texture in the back or a little more smooth, and also
Mhm.
like you can do it by yourself and be like, okay, I like it this, and not to actually just be um just having one or two options and then that's it. You can actually go, okay, I like a little more smoother than that, but not too smooth, a little rougher, so you can actually take and pick and do how you like it. I
Uh,
think that's
that's actually pretty interesting.
hmm
I also wanted to
Excellent.
ask, how's it
yeah.
like being an artist in Boston? Like, share your stories.
Well, for me, it has been really nice because we got plenty of schools. Like, well, we have one academy here, but also there's like the mass art is university or college, I believe, or like the MFA school. So there's a lot of creativity outside and everywhere, and like
Mhm.
a few years ago, I was actually using a website that is called Meetup, and I'll be just showing up on drop-ins for figure, and then you see like people from those places there are a little more artistic drive in terms of color or like gesture or like drawings, and then you got somebody that is really into really describing or realism things, so it's really
Mhm.
really good. And also like you have a great scene for music that you can
Yeah, yeah.
also share with that, so it's beautiful. Yeah.
That's nice to hear.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
how's it like for you, John?
Yeah, no, I can echo what Andres is saying, and we have we have a lot of museums here, which are great to go to for inspiration. Just if you want to just look at painting techniques, brush up on art history, just get a little break from all the drawing and painting you're doing. And like Andres said, we're both music lovers, so I mean Boston has a great music scene, so that's also nice. Yeah, no, it's great, and of course, I mean the big thing is the community of ARA is just fantastic. I would really miss it if I didn't have that in my life.
That's
Yeah,
lovely.
yeah.
And I actually always heard that the art scene in Boston is very contemporary, but like I'm a traditional art lover. So
Hmm.
how's it for the traditional arts there, like from the collector's side? Like, do they appreciate figurative works more, like the Renaissance paintings? Because I heard like that in Boston, like they appreciate contemporary art more. Or am I wrong with that?
I don't know. I don't think. Well, I would say it's a mix. I can't. I mean, they may percentage wise real. I would say representational realism and stuff is not as large. Let's say the scene isn't as large as um, some of the other things in the contemporary scene, but nevertheless, still pretty big. I mean, you go to any open studios, any we have these at SOA. They have galleries and studios that are always showing, and we go down and you see a good mix of everything, really. So I can't say that you can't find your way if you're a representational or realist artist. Of
Oh yeah.
course, no, it's still, yeah, it's still very good scene for that.
Yeah, also
Mhm.
you can see on museums, if you go to the MFA or anything like
Right.
that, you're gonna see the modern art and also like the Renaissance or like a, European classic. And
Mm-hmm.
there's plenty of people all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm always
Mm-hmm.
surprised if you go on a Monday that you think to be like a slow day, you'll see a lot of people. So yeah, there's a lot
Yeah,
of
Agreed.
appreciation.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you,
Yeah.
Rippy, for your questions. Those were great.
Yeah,
So it
you're
looks like
welcome.
we have, yeah, no problem. So it looks like we have a couple of questions in the chat. So we'll take them in turn here. Okay. So the first one we have is from Gene. Thank you for your question, Gene. So we have, do you do anything in particular to get yourself out of a creative slump? Pause. I can't just seem to get my head back into the game. Yeah, that's a great question. How to get out of a creative slump? And that, yeah, I've definitely experienced them. So I mean, I'll just give you my perspective. I can't say that it's going to be the same for everyone. I mean, because everybody has their own like bespoke sort of way of working these things out. But one of the things I like to do is I try not to force any ideas or things like that. I let them. I notice that stress and the stress of noticing even that I'm in a creative slump makes things worse, and it closes me off because um, there is something to say about opening yourself and to listen, to hear, as one would say, the voice of the muse, whatever your muse is. And I think giving it time and giving yourself periods where you maybe set yourself up in the conditions for the muse to give you some creativity so that a dialogue can be formed. I found with the current series I'm working on, it took me a while for the ideas to, let's say, manifest themselves. And so I found a way to put myself, like I said, I found a way to put myself in an environment, or I played with the conditions that I found conducive to the creativity. I sort of noticed when I was in a psychological state that was conducive to that. Usually for me, that's later at night because my worries of the day are done, let's say, so I don't have to be stressed about all these things I have to do. And so that part of my brain quiets down, and then I maybe listen to some music or something like that, and that opens me up. And I can't say every time it works though, because I mean, I do like to think of the creative process as a dialogue where you can't force it. It's not just me. It's not a monological sort of, I'm going to will it to happen. Because I think that's what a lot of us, including myself, have done. I tried to will an idea and push through it. And so I think, yeah, there's just something about letting it sit. I mean, if you're not feeling it, let it sit. I mean, I've gone months and months where I haven't had any ideas. And so I'll switch more into let's say, soaking up different paintings, different ideas, books I'm reading. I do that more. So try to switch it up a little bit, I would say. Instead of trying to stay in the one lane of coming up with the idea, switch lane, and maybe you do a little bit of exposure, speak with people, try to expose yourself to new ideas. I find that the catalyst can come from anything. I''ll be walking and I'll see something, yeah, that's an idea to maybe work on. Sometimes it's impulsive. I notice that about myself, and I have impulsive ideas, and I sit on those. Yeah, so I would say variety and a little bit of time. So yeah, that's what I would say for now. I hope that's helpful.
Thanks. I'll give that a shot. I was just worried that, if I wasn't doing anything, or if I forced myself to do something just to do something, I was wasting perfectly good, very expensive materials. So I keep my easel set up and everything handy, so it's ready to go when the spirit moves me. But I was just getting a little worried that I wasn't doing anything for too long. But
okay,
a lot of it
maybe
is so mental. But you're right, it's so mental.
Agreed. Yeah. And so maybe I should have asked this beforehand, but I went on a little tangent there. So are you talking more about just the working itself, or you're not talking about like coming up with ideas? Because I think I was talking maybe more about coming up with ideas. Which one of those would you say it's more? Is it just like waking up every day and having the motivation, the creativity, feel like you're ready to
Yeah, no,
work?
it's
Okay.
probably that. But the other thing is I'm trying to sort of segue. I'm still working my day job.
Yeah. I understand.
And when that peaks, I get really busy, and then I feel like I've neglected, the stuff that I
Okay.
was born to love, and then
Yeah,
then
no,
I
no,
feel like it's gone too long without
okay.
what's going on with this language thing?
Yeah,
No, I hear you with that. Yeah, no, go ahead, Andres.
I do have I think the best way to just have like that creative motion, just keep going, is always just, for me at least, is study. If I want study something with drawing, and I'll just be a little more creative with what I'm starting on. And also like that sets me up for a goal that you say like, okay, I want to get like the first marks, I just want to get it right for my portrait. I don't really want to have a lot of descriptions of what is going on. I just want to get that expression. So that's like a goal that I can just accomplish in one day. If you want like a little more long um uh strategies or like goals, for example, like a painting. So if you want to do a painting for I don't know, like multiple layers, so you can structure in that way. You can focus on drawing, then opaque, and then like glazings and certain effects. But I think that's one of those. And also like if you're doing that work, you are also learning a lot, right? Because you judging what you're doing. So in that way, you can actually just keep the inspiration, the creativity going, and also like learning at the same time, and improving all the time. So I think that'll be like my
Yeah,
suggestion
well,
for
I
that
think
part.
part of it too comes from I'm a graphic designer, so
Mhm.
when I got into painting was basically COVID. Let's be honest. And
Oh, we all did. A lot of
I'm basically a self-taught painter, but I have like a whole background of the design stuff, and there was a lot, there's a lot of new education in the beginning, which and goals, and you ramp up and then you hit a plateau, and then you ramp up and you hit a plateau. And I think at this point, I feel like really what I need to do is work and find my people, which is why I love your thing here that you're doing monthly. It's just wonderful. It's very hard to find, well, I think anyway, at least where I live, to find people that are into like classical style of painting, like let's do it right from the beginning, and not this, when the spirit moves you, you just throw whatever happens on the canvas and then spin a story. I can't do that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. For these days, it's kind of hard just to find the same
yeah,
people, and
it is. And
it,
I lived in the Boston area for 40 some years. I was in advertising
Mhm.
there, and talking to you guys, God, I miss it. I just moved down to Rhode Island, and the scene down here is not. And I thought it was like, well, it's only an hour and 10 minutes if there's no traffic.
yeah. which
Yeah,
which is almost
the
like
traffic,
never.
yeah.
Which is almost like never.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I envy you that you're there and in the middle of it. But thank you for your tips.
You're welcome.
Absolutely,
You're welcome,
yes.
Gene. Yeah. Okay, so we have another question from Resmia. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. So if I just read out the question. So how do you know the balance between what you know anatomy-wise and what you see? Because I like to keep to the beauty of the portrait and not too much anatomy. Okay, so that's a very good question. So I think there are a number of ways to think about this, and it depends on what you're going for. I mean, we're all drawing observationally, of course. I mean, that's the atelier method is a lot of observation. So what we always say to people is, at least at our school, if I were to give sort of a breakdown, I would say 85–90% of our drawing is done observationally. And then the other 10–15% is done conceptually, where you want to push the drawing sometimes past what you can see, not taking away from it, because I understand what you're saying. You want to capture, if you're doing a portrait, you want to capture that person. You don't want to change things too much. But for example, if we're thinking about something like form and turning form, sometimes the eye just can't pick it up, or you're so overwhelmed by so many other elements when you're drawing or painting that you're not going to see it. So it helps to have that conceptual frame in mind, where you're maybe pushing an edge as it, if you're doing the shoulder, you're rounding the edge, softening an edge, hardening an edge to show a tension or a form receding in space. And so that's where I would say the anatomy comes into play a lot. The anatomy for me, at least if we're just talking about observational stuff, is it's a way of informing, one, what I'm seeing, and then two, applying that and helping me apply that to when I'm rendering it. So for example, if we're taking something like a shoulder, and we're seeing a lot of different structures, very subtle structures here, which can sometimes be conflated for a non-structural aspect of the body, like a skin blemish or something like that. The anatomy helps me navigate what I'm looking at. So I'll say, okay, the collarbone's here, and that's coming from the pit of the neck, and I have my sternocleidomastoid muscle here. So that's allowing me to make sense, make what I'm looking at more intelligible. And then when I render it, I can push it a little bit. If I want to push the form, something like that. Mm-hmm. Of course, I mean, there is a whole spectrum. You can go too far with that. Somebody might make the clavicle much more bony looking than it actually is on the person, which is fine. I mean, that's sort of like a manneristic sort of thing, or just an artistic choice. But yeah, for me, if I'm just drawing observationally, it's more of an informer, helping me understand what I'm looking at, helping me understand what I'm drawing, pushing the structural element of it. Okay. I mean, another example, not to give too many examples here, but when I do portraiture, the model's pretty close, but still, the face has all these small little features, and there's things that you can't sometimes see unless you go right up. And so, for example, if the lighting's coming from above, you sometimes get a little sort of semi-lunar looking form shadow right here. And it's hard to see that from, back at your easel. So the knowledge of the anatomy tells me, okay, this is the wing of the nose, and I understand its structure, and how would the light interact with it, and how would the shadow form. So it's informing all of that. And then me looking at it closely, I'm like, oh yeah, that links those together, wedge them together. Okay. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Of course, there are the, people who do stuff from their head, totally. And then that's, a different story. They need a lot of anatomical knowledge. And okay. So let's see. We then have a question from Terry. Okay, so if I just read out the question. Good morning. Thanks for offering the session. I'm a natural history artist, mostly birds. Excellent. Yes, that's awesome. And I would really appreciate you sharing your thoughts about the most effective methods for studying anatomy. I'm currently combining skill studies from life, as well as copying diagrams, drawings from ornithology textbooks. Are there any other approaches you would recommend when studying anatomy? Okay, so let's see here. Very good question. So you're combining skull studies from life as well as copying diagrams, drawings. I mean, that, I think you're definitely on the right track. If I, hopefully I can apply this somewhat to, to the ornithology, but if I just speak from a human perspective, which I think it'll translate. I did that, let's say, when I was learning anatomy. And I will say, just for everyone, if I just apply this, because, all of us, I think, want to get better at anatomy if we're drawing representation and trying to capture a figure or portrait more correctly, is that anatomy, you have to do it in cycles. I mean, there's always things you learn, and you have to just keep going through it. You're not going to get it in one pass. I mean, I'm still learning new things I have to review, and then so on. So, but when I first started, I mean, besides just getting an understanding of the nomenclature and the vocabulary, then it was getting familiar as an artist with the shapes. And that was just taking, I have a couple anatomy textbooks here, something like Artistic Anatomy by Richer over here. This book has excellent plates in the back, and I would just take them out and copy them in a sketchy form. I wasn't, there are different ways to copy anatomical drawings. For me, I always found that the goal, you always have to ask yourself, what is the goal here, to what end? The goal was comprehension. I wasn't trying to create a beautiful looking anatomical drawing of a tibia that took me 3 weeks. I mean, I don't think it would be, there may be something to get from that. I do think, but for me, it was about shape recognition, shape comprehension. So yeah, drawing all the bones, and then proceeding to have an understanding of the muscles. And so I would say, same with the birds, is that, learn the bones, learn your muscles, see how those are impacting the surface form. And then I would sort of allow that to inform your painting if you're looking at pictures or whatnot. So you have an understanding, like we were saying before, that I'm looking at a form here. Is this form just maybe due to the feathers, or is there an actual muscle change there, bone change, and so on? Okay. Okay, so a few other messages here. Okay, and so I'm seeing the next question from Mayra is back to an anatomy question. I hope that I answered it. I think those sort of tie in together about how do you study anatomy without an instructor, and is it really the way to copy anatomy books? Yeah, I mean, look, the best teacher really is to have a figure, ultimately, or I should say, but it can't be the only teacher. I mean, you can't. I don't think you can learn anatomy just by drawing from life. You do need to take some time and look at the books. So yeah, it seems a little maybe monotonous, but I really do think that drawing from the bone plates, knowing your muscles, where they're starting and ending, the shapes of the muscles, how they're informing something like a contour, how they're informing all these form changes. I mean, that's really the biggest amount of information you need to know. Obviously, always in relation to the visuals. I mean, as applied to us drawing from life and an artistic bent. I mean, you don't want to go too far into sort of the clinical side. I wouldn't, as someone who did dissection in my undergrad, I wouldn't say there was that much that I could take from the clinical side and apply it artistically, besides obviously the vocabulary, nomenclature, origin, insertion, all that, understanding of the relationships between the forms. But visually, that's a whole nother ballgame. And I think that, just copying from some books. So, and on that point, if I just give everyone maybe 3 or 4 books that I think are really helpful. So I have the one here I think the Artistic Anatomy by Richer. It has a good text, but I think the plates are excellent. I've sort of taken mine apart here because I used to draw from it so much. So you can see they have all these very nice plates that you can draw from bones, muscles, and so on. So that I would just run through those again, like I said, just quick sketches. Eventually, maybe even trying your hand at some memorization sketches, from your mind to see what you've remembered. Then, as far as information goes, if you just want to learn, about origin insertion, about how structures are relating to each other, because I mean that is very important. Having back to what I was saying about the understanding of what you're looking at, I would say I don't have the book, the sleeve here, but it's Human Anatomy for Artists by Elliot Goldfinger. The Elements of Form. This book, in my opinion, is the best book for information because it has all the information you need as an artist specifically, and it's very concise. So most of the information is limited to a page and a half. And the layout is also very nice because they have everything laid out where you have bone by itself, muscle in context, muscle on an actual photo of a person, and then this is the information, all the information you need to know about that muscle. So really great book. I mean, some night reading for all of you who aren't reading some great fiction or something. And then I don't have the first volume with me, but there's an Italian series called Struttura Uomo, which just basically means structure of man. And I can write that in the chat for everyone. So that one you can get off of Amazon. I think you may have to. Yeah, I think you get off Amazon. I remember having to get mine off of the Italian Amazon, but it's a great book because that one focuses less on what most books are, which is just your basic front, side views, inside views. And it gives you more of a dimensional view of the body, and it's sort of a what's called plastic anatomy, like the layers. You're understanding the layers and the structure in space, which is very important for us as artists because we're not usually drawing some static figure all the time. Okay, so that's really helpful. And then tying in with that is another book. I think it's recently been translated. The author is Gottfried, a German, Baumes. Hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. And that's Complete Anatomy for Artists. That also is a very good book. So there's your reading list for the next few years, everyone. Okay, I hope that's helpful. So let's see, we have some other questions here.
I actually just want to add a little bit on what you were saying
Yeah, please,
about
Andress.
about how to study anatomy. And I think John has a good example how we should be approaching anatomy. Just because he doesn't take the full body and like study, he actually takes sections. So like if you wanna study about the hand or the arm, and so he just goes dive into it, you know, and just to see like the muscles, what is on top, how is the movement, you know, how they connect, and also proportions. And so just think about the same way that John was explaining on how to study from books, drawings, sketches, or master copies, and then applying it into figure, into real life. And you can think like the copying from the masters or like just the books or anything, you can just take it as classes. And then the figure, you can take it as a test. You know, it's the moment that you are actually putting in action what you learn from those classes, right? So I think that that's actually a good way that we have it here in the academy, because we have the figure, we have it for like 6 hours or something, and then we have anatomy by the end. So you know, it's like the test, and then you study again what were the things that you need to put into the or apply into things. So I think I just want to add that little piece right there, because I know we have a really nice project that's going on in here. Is, you know, he's the man to ask for anatomy.
Yeah, no, I agree with Andres totally. I mean, the contextualization really is most important. I mean, you can't just learn it from the books. I mean, because it's sort of, I call it like the application gap, where, you know, it is a lot of more theoretical, let's say, information when you're reading it in the book. I mean, yes, you're drawing, you're learning the shape, but it does need to be applied and shown on an actual live figure, and that's where drawing from a live figure is important. So those both of those are necessary. You can't, I don't think you can separate them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I see we have a hand up from our friend Mark.
Yes.
How are you, Mark?
Can you hear me?
I can, very well.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Yes. My question is, when painting skin, is there a way to get accurate skin color? And is it over course of different faces? That's my question.
So when you say over the course of different faces, are you saying is there a way to have a like a base, a sort of a pre-mixture that you know you can work off of for many different skin tones? Is that sort of what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I would say in my experience that you can do that. There is a way to get like create some premixes that act as a good setup for any model, and then you, let's call it, particularize that, or individualize, let's say, those premixes to what you're looking at. Like, let's say the model has a little bit more orange in their skin. You integrate that. But for me, if we're just thinking about like a limited palette, you want to make sure that you're, I mean, it's hard to do this, just verbalize it without showing you, but don't use too much white. I find a lot of people, they bring too much white into the midtones. I mean, you want to have, I mean, you're going to have to use the white, but make sure that you're getting that good range of values, but also the chroma in the changes, what you would call the tonal progression. If we're just talking about the limited palette, one way I like to teach it is that I'll say to people, think about it like this. Okay, take your ivory black, mix it with white, create a string going from dark to light. Then let's add the next color, because the only other two colors on our palette are the red, yellow, ochre, that's what you're using as a yellow, and the white, of course. So total of 4. So you have this tonal, this progression, just value. Then give it, I mean, obviously that's too, let's call it dead. No flesh is gray. So put some red into it, and that's going to give it a pinky hue. But you're still going up in the values from dark to light. And then you're going to have to start adding a little bit of yellow, of course, because the red may be too pinky or too purple. Again, it's still lacking a little bit of the flesh look. And that's really it. I mean, it seems very, very simple. I mean, it gets more complicated, but it really is just the ratio of those. Okay. And so you can do that, and that's where you can adjust it based on the person you're looking at. You need a little bit more orange, you add a little bit more yellow ochre, or add a little bit more red if it needs more pink. Now, as far as patterns go, I would say you usually see that the shadows are ivory black and a little bit of red, maybe a touch of ochre to give it sort of a burnt umbery feel. Of course, I'm giving a generalization here. It depends on context, and our environment dictates everything. I have a white wall here, so that's influencing how my shadows are looking. But if we're just giving my, let's say, basic premixes, a shadow value and shadow color that's around a brownie is what I usually find. And then as we get into the darker halftones, purples and greeny purples are what I usually find. And then from there, I mean, you're just sort of adding a little bit of white, adding back some color in as you go to the brights. If you're interested, I'm going to do the selfless pitch here. I have a portrait color study class, a 2-day portrait color study class in July, where I go over the mixing of something like this and how you would be able to apply it to, with a limited palette, apply it to many different figures. So if you're interested, and I hope that sort of answers your question, Mark.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. That was great.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks.
Okay. So we have a question in the chat about going to museums and seeing great art like Botticelli or Mantegna. And this is from Mayra, and she feels like there's a kind of adorable primitiveness, but I cannot really say what it is. Do you have an idea? Andress, what do you think? Because I definitely respond there. I agree. There is something about like a Botticelli, Mantegna, Renaissance. It has this. It's more. I don't know what more stylized. Maybe it's a little bit less realistic than what we're used to.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I was gonna say that it is anatomy. In the anatomy perspective, is right, but it does have a little more sense of, idealized. So
Idealized,
yeah. Like in that way, like if you think about it, they were just learning what was going on from the past, from the ancient Greeks and the Romans and everything like that. But then they were actually applying it for what the movement were at that time. There is actually a little more idealized, right?
Agreed.
So yeah, I think it's more a mix of both, but just taking a little more the, surreal, not realistic look, but then just supported by the realistic.
Yeah. And I would say, I mean, I don't want to use the word because I don't mean it in a disrespectful way. It almost looks more cartoony, but I think that it's like Andress was saying, they were coming out of, you have to see it in context historically, and then in context to how we're looking at things, where I think as a society, at least artistically, but maybe even more generally, we're very into realism, as in things being real. Like I notice myself when I watch a movie, I scrutinize, oh, you know, that quite wouldn't happen, you know what I mean, something like that. And you see it in painting too. I'm a sort of a slave to the realism of the form has to be exactly like this, and this light has to come from here. I think back then they were coming off of a different artistic period, which was the you go like the proto-Renaissance, which they're just coming out of. It's basically the Byzantine art, and Byzantine art was all about icons, and it wasn't about getting stuck in the world of the painting. It was about going through the painting. There's a transparency difference.
They were trying to describe more the afterlife, that what was going on actually down here. And like also like if you think Michelangelo, for some reason I just like to think the Sistine Chapel, the ceiling is more for me like a comic book that is for us right now, because it's super exaggerated, muscles, action, you know. So so it's real, but you know, it's in a high level. You know, it's super
high, super idealized. Totally.
And then like you see that curve going up and down. Like they just start to get a little more idealized. They get to Michelangelo, Da Vinci, Raphael, and then they go to Caravaggio, and then you know they start to like actually painting the people from, you know, the common life, you know,
right.
So I think actually goes up, down, you know, Rubens again, and then Rembrandt, and then Velasquez,
totally.
You know. So it's I think that also happens here. Yeah.
To put it, and maybe to get not too philosophical, but it's sort of like idealization, which is like a unity, like trying to put everyone into this one sort of unified look, and then
they get tired.
Like,
and then they get tired, and they're like, okay,
we make everything different. Everybody has their own, which I mean, I think there is a balance to be struck there.
Of course. I think that it also happens right now. Like if you see like the modern art, how they are so abstract and everything, and then now with realism, we just try to take the real part and then apply a little more abstract, you know, a little more
abstract,
colorful, and so you know, it just comes and goes, and I think that's the magic.
There's the magic, It's not always staying static one way.
It just keeps moving, improving, you know. That's the way. That's the way to do it. That's the way.
And then there's a second part to Mira's question. When you're painting, how do you know if the concept is really strong or appealing? Wow, this is a nice question. I like this question, Mira. How do you know if it's strong? I mean, again, I'd be interested to hear Andress's thoughts too. If I just speak for myself, you need some sort of guide with these sort of things, in the sense that, you know, as an artist, we find everything can be interesting. I could find, you know, my phone sitting in the light on a sunny afternoon on the table interesting. And why don't I paint that over what I'm painting now? I'm doing a narrative series. I have to place it in a hierarchy, in a sense. What am I oriented towards, and to what end are these things? I mean, there is something to also say about impulsivity. Back to that again, I noticed that I do fall prey to, oh, this idea is cool. Like a billboard is cool, where the billboard is attractive initially and it's salient and it catches my eye, but I lose interest with the billboard, as we all do. I mean, that's its point. I lose interest though after a little bit. So I have to be careful of that impulsivity to look at, to go forth with an idea that just was maybe interesting in the moment, or I thought that was going to sell. I mean, there's of course that we're the despotism of the salesman. I think Kumaraswamy, who was I think he was the director of the MFA back in the day. He has a book on art. He said that, yeah, we have to watch out for that. I mean, of course, we want to sell our paintings, but you don't want to become too much that to become your guiding factor. Or what people will, you have to think, what your audience likes to an extent, but again, you don't want that to go too far. So I would say for myself, I asked myself, what kind of art do I want on my wall? And maybe further than that, what kind of art do I need on my wall? Because I want my art to be something on my wall that's, maybe more as a meditation, as an actual icon, something for me to look at and see as a beautiful appearance, which the billboard is giving you initially. So you're still getting that initial nice, it's a nice image, but then it also maybe has some more levels to it. That for John, it's not a thing I want to universalize or anything like that. But yeah, so just, thinking about in that respect, sort of placing it in a hierarchy of value, I guess you could say, for yourself. And then your heart will guide you with that. And that's where I think being honest with yourself, letting it sit, don't get too impulsive. And time will tell you whether, because like I said, I've had ideas where this is the one, and then a week later, it's not so good. So I would say logging your ideas is very important. I have a notebook. I put everything down, even if it's just chicken scratch, little thumbnails or just a little jot down, because it's all something. It's all something. But yeah, and then you can siphon through it later. Okay, it's all good.
Yeah. I actually heard. I think it was Gary. Well, so somebody say in here in the academy, not trying to be mean or anything, but just think about the painting that you want to put on your wall, because most of the time it's gonna be there, So you just gonna be
right.
You just gotta be happy with something that you actually put and that you feel comfortable around, and and you like to see, because if you want to spend a good amount of time in it, you're just gonna have to love it, because most of the time what happens here is that even for me, like, I love my projects, but there's some part of the projects that I'm like, if I see this thing one more second, I'm just gonna explode. But yeah, you just need to really like, and also what John was saying, just take your time planning things, just making sure that the setup is right, the subject that you're painting is right, and if you look for different options, I like to actually just take the objects that I'm gonna work on, like 5, 4, 3 or something, and do a little sketch. If I feel comfortable with the sketch, I think I can maneuver things, or like just create so many structures, or like setups, something flying, or just create many things, but then do it with just a pencil and a paper, and that way, like, I can start to create my idea, and then I'll do the setup, and then I play with the figures. If something works, that's great. If you have one subject that you just want to do it because it's very important for you, you can make it work for that moment, or just just take it a pause and then do it later. I actually have one really good example, and it was 2 years ago or something. I was taking a workshop with Todd Casey, and I want to do this shell base that I have, that I'm actually painting right now, and I was not able to do it on that time just because I didn't have the right setup, and I really want to do it. But then 2 years later, I got the opportunity, and actually with the help of everybody setting up the little piece, it actually worked. So it's just taking that time to, like, study the subject, create that narrative, but then do not take it just like, I'm gonna do it in one day and the next day is gonna be you know, perfect, and I'm just gonna love it.
Yeah,
Because you know, it just needs to take its time. So yeah, I think that's a way for you to actually see if it's gonna not strong, but just it's gonna be something that you're gonna feel comfortable just going back, and you know, and
yeah,
as I say before, you're gonna love it at the beginning and at the end. In the middle, you're gonna, you know, you're gonna have a lot of feelings.
agreed,
Yep.
agreed. Yeah, and Brenda, actually, and good to hear from you, Brenda. As always, I hope you're well. I see you sort of echoed it, that Brenda says the heart knows it all. And yeah, I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Yeah. We just have to be honest with ourselves in the end.
Mm-hmm.
We all have, you know, we're all, not to get too, but there is the beauty of our own uniqueness, and we all have we've grown up in different environments, and that the beauty is that all of us have different things in us. And if you're honest with yourself, that will come out, and that's what we all want to see. We want to explore each other's, you know, the variety there. So yeah, just
Exactly.
be honest with yourself and let things sit. If you're getting too stressed, don't let that get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it also keep in mind like what's the things that you want to work on.
Yeah.
I also take it like from let's see, Da Vinci, for example. Like what was the why he was working on one single painting this
Yeah. Yeah.
size for so many years, you know? He's just trying to accomplish a goal, you know? And so that's another way. Just, you know, if you want to study the behavior of paint through layers, or if you want to study anatomy, for example, or you want to study, I don't know, drawing or legitimate palette, you know, like I just using um three colors, you know, just to describe a full painting and like create balance. That's another way just to see, okay, this is just a study and it's a project, and you know, we're gonna see where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Right.
Totally. So what do we have here? We have another question from Catherine. Um, so for figurative work with a model, I would like to take work from a sketch group session, develop it into more definitive finished artwork. How do you develop the transition, gather information to work once the model is not in front of you anymore? Photos, question mark. I'm not yet ready to hire a model myself to pull them back for additional sessions. Okay. Very good question. Let me just read that one more time, Catherine. So, would you say, are you asking, well, okay, so you mentioned photos. Yeah, so I agree. If you're not ready to hire a model, and I've been sort of in a similar boat with my own paintings, is that I've been working more from photos and more invented. So yeah, you would want to gather some photos, and then you can play in Photoshop with maybe pick stitching the idea together, I would say, to get it to some sort of cohesive end as a reference, and then you can start working off of it.
I think basically what I wanted to add to
Yeah.
it is like sometimes things,
Please, yeah.
have details. Let's say, there's
Okay.
clothing that or whatever, that if I do something kind of more quickly in a sketch group, and they're wearing,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like when the information isn't there anymore,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or
Yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah, so you're saying you have like a sketch of a figure, but maybe you didn't get the necklace, and the necklace needs to be rendered more tightly in the final piece or something.
something
Sort of
like
like
that.
that.
Yeah, just in
Yeah.
general. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, photos are your best bet. And then, I mean, the Photoshop, I still stand by that, finding a way to sort of integrate it, because that's the big thing, is we're trying to integrate it so that they don't look like they're from two different sources. I mean, so lighting comes into play there. So, and that's the downside with the reference online, is you maybe can't always confirm it's in the same lighting situation as your initial sketch. So that's where a little bit of let's say the conceptual or your own knowledge of form and light comes into play. And if it helps, sometimes what you can do is, let's say you find a picture of some nice pearls that work as the necklace you're trying to do, but the lighting situation's off. What you can do is get your own necklace, or even make something very simple and put it in a similar lighting situation, and then apply that light logic to that. I mean, I've definitely had to do that a lot of times. So yeah, it's a lot of this mixing things to get to the final piece, really. I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Catherine. Okay, so we have our pleasure, Mayra. I see your message there. Okay. So Donna's asking about my portrait class. Will I record it? I wasn't planning to, because it is in person and it might be difficult because it's going to be very spread out. I'd have to move the camera. So I would say unlikely, unfortunately. But I can always, I mean, if anyone's interested, I could always do sort of an online webinar on, portrait color study or mixing or anything like that. I mean, if people would be interested in that, I could always prepare something.
I remember the portrait class that you have for one part.
Oh,
Yeah, I
when
think it
we were
was like
during-
2-3 days
Yeah.
or something. That was
Oh, I
nice.
remember you had taken that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it was the first one that you did online.
Yeah.
It was during the pandemic, was it?
Yeah, I think maybe, I was on there. It was a portrait anatomy webinar I did.
Yeah.
That
That one was good. I still want to do the one with this expressions.
Yeah. That one needs to be done. I still haven't. Yeah.
That one would be challenging.
Okay, so we have a question from Jean. And no, don't apologize, Jean, for the amount of questions. These are all good. As many as you want to ask, we're happy to answer them. And I'm sure everybody else is benefiting from listening to the questions and answers, hopefully. So, as it pertains to portraits, how do you feel about commissions? Yes. I sort of fell into animal portraiture and have done several commission pieces to date. I find it stressful, as most of the animals I'm asked to do are memorial places for their owners. Can you say a few words about maintaining sanity when working on commission? I get where it's basically a prepaid sale, but for anyone, right? Yeah, commissions. I don't personally have a lot of experience with them. I have done a few. Sort of the time required it to an extent, and I did them. I know we all have to, make a living, and so I would say, to keep your sanity, try to do your own stuff on the side if you can. Yeah, and also, I mean, view it as, every time you put a brush to your panel or linen, it's always a learning experience. There's always something to get out of it, just the way you're looking at it. I mean, you can be trying to do technique or experimenting, or just getting better with paint in general. So I wouldn't take away the commissions I did. Yeah, I would have preferred to be working on my own stuff, but I learned a lot from doing them. But I think that, I would say the big thing for staying sane is continue to do your own work.
Well, you know what I finally said to myself, because I'm one of those, I'm my own worst enemy, my own worst critic.
Same
it's
here.
Not as good as so-and-so can do. It's not as, and I'm like, it's not as good as so-and-so can do, but it's better than the person who hired me to do it can do.
Totally. Yeah. No, I totally agree.
And and if I know that I'm giving them my best work, that's all I can do, right?
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. Yep.
Can I just pipe in for a second, John? It's Brenda.
Yes, please, Brenda.
I was given a commission 2 years ago to do the first ending of the I forget what year, Olympics basketball, where the Americans actually won against the Russians. It was a big deal. And then the Russians called timeout, blah, blah, blah. It was a horrible thing. There were three different endings. So the captain of the team commissioned me to do this for a 50th anniversary. And I was terrified.
Right, right.
And one of the things that one of the other instructors advised me from the academy was to take that painting and think about it in 3 different passes. To do the grisaille, to do your values, then do your first pass and try to finish it up by the 3rd pass. And that was so helpful for me to get through that. I was being paid a ton of money, and the money was terrific because it enabled me to buy a lot of things for my painting career that I needed and wanted. But for me, looking at it in a 3-step process was extremely helpful.
No, that's great, Brenda. Yeah. Yeah, break it up so that you don't get lost in the
willy wags.
Lost in it.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah.
Hope it was helpful.
No, I think so, Brenda. Thank you for adding that. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
We have.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead,
I
Andress.
just want to give. Also, I have a recommendation that I don't really have any commissions, but I do follow one person that I think is really good in terms of commission. Besides, of course, my beloved instructors here, which they get plenty of good commissions. But this guy is Stephen Baldwin. Is pretty common, and he knows, like, well, he has a lot of commissions for portraits, and he actually has a video in YouTube that you can just go and check it out, and he goes step by step on how to deal, from the photograph, or what to choose, what not to choose, when to get into one project or not, if you feel not that sure about it. And also, like, it kind of helps you to, like, set up a system. I think that's pretty much what a good way just to have is just always have a system, in that way you don't have to just just see the picture, be like, okay, I have to give you a yes or no right now. It's more like, a conversation is gonna take, if a person wants a good I don't know, representation of a beloved, I don't know, pet or something, or something that really likes, it just depends on the time. And if you want to do something from one day to the next, it's just going to be a different quality for what it is from a couple of months. So you just I just want to give that little tip there, because I think he's a really good person to just follow for those kind of things.
Could you pop his name? Could you write his name down?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, and then, okay, so we did that. Okay, so we got a question from Terry. Let me see here. Just reading your question, Terry. Okay.
Sorry, it's a long one. I'm basically just asking if skipping charcoal and substituting watercolor and gouache is that going to be catastrophic in the traditional trajectory of classical training? I'm just, in the context I'm coming from, which is more natural history, you don't see a lot of that. It's a lot more of the thinking of the drawing part is done in watercolor and gouache. So I just wanted to get your views on that. Nothing against charcoal.
No, I know. Yeah. Okay, so you're saying to substitute charcoal for the watercolor or the gouache?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay. No, I don't think the medium itself would would affect it. I think it's more if you, so you're saying if you go from Bargs, let's see, graphite Bargs. If I may ask, how are you copying? Like, are you working from photos or?
I'm mostly copying plates from scientific monographs.
Ah, okay. I understand. Okay, and so they're main, like you were saying, they're mainly in gouache or watercolor. Okay.
Yeah, there's also a lot of ink and lithography, like line and wash.
Yeah, no, I think that would work well. I mean, because yeah, it's sort of like the way graphite is to barg, and then you would just use the material that they're using in your copy. No, I think that would work well. I maybe suggest, although I don't have a lot of experience with watercolor, if you know, and I'm assuming you would do some sort of construct in graphite first, and then transfer it to a watercolor paper.
Yeah, like I'm basically what I'm doing is before I go into the oil painting part of an atelier training, I'm sort of taking a sidetrack. I'm almost done a certificate in botanical art to give me the drawing background and the watercolor skills for that.
Okay.
So it's a sort of a complex question. I'm basically trying to combine two training methods, like the classical method but with botanical stuff, because the subject matter is more relevant. But in the course of doing that, I'm just realizing, wow, all the natural history artists work in watercolor and gouache. So I was just wondering if I sort of bypass the charcoal part of things, is all hell going to break loose? Like when I get to oil painting, is it just going to be a disaster?
Right. I mean, the chart, because we, at least at our school, we use the charcoal for the cast, which is obviously more from the third dimension, you know, in space, versus the barg, which is from the flat. I would say that is important. From that sense, it's not necessarily the charcoal itself, but that exercise of drawing from life, like of a cast, is helpful. Because I mean, for me at least, that was where I really understood space and value. I mean, I obviously was introduced to it through barg, but the cast really honed that, and I really saw jumps in figure. So, as long, I would say, as you maybe don't completely sacrifice doing cast, I think that. But either way, I think what you're doing is good as like a side thing to do, because of the fact that those copies you're working off of are from gouache or watercolor. I mean, that seems like something that needs to be done for what you're looking to do.
No, that's helpful. Thank you. Can I ask one very brief follow-up question just on the cast?
Please.
Because
please.
The bird casts that I'm ordering, they're a lot smaller than, say, like the Homer heads and stuff that you traditionally be working in. So I was thinking of just doing my cast drawings in graphite, just because of the level of detail and precision for the feather texture. Is that is that a relatively okay idea?
Yeah, I mean, I know that other schools do cast in graphite. I mean, in the end, I mean, the reason we do the graphite, I mean, it's multi-fold. One is it gives you a nice range, it gives you an increased range over graphite, so there's more room to work with, but also simulates paint in a similar way, just by working with the masses and everything. But no, I mean, you're still going to work your eye. You're going to get what you need ultimately by working with graphite. So I don't think it's a problem.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. All right. Any other questions from anyone?
I'll ask a question. Hey guys, can you hear me?
Please, yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one question is, this is maybe more for the school, but are there plans to have like study halls? And because I know Julie used to have like a study hall where you could kind of bring in your personal work and like have help you with it. And did you guys ever do study halls yourself, or is like the fact that you have a studio at the school essentially a study hall because people come in and out of your studio and like help you?
Ah, you mean like during the program, like if someone were to?
No, I mean
like if someone were during the day and come into my studio.
No, I mean more like if you, for your own art, attend a study hall.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. And by the way, hi Julia. I didn't realize it was you at first. Okay, no, I got a bunch of started
I
speaking up.
also
Yeah.
I missed my train yesterday, by the way. So
Oh, I'm sorry. It was a little tight, huh?
it was very tight.
Yeah. Would I ever do it? Actually, and I think you answered it during, I think I understood what you're saying. I probably wouldn't do it in study hall per se, but I am always asking Garrett and Julie Andress, for their opinions.
Great. I
You know?
got
Yeah.
the
So
answer.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Julia.
Oh no, I think Mark, someone might have been.
Yeah, it was,
Oh, that was Mark. Oh,
it
sorry,
was in
Mark.
a different, yeah.
And then another question. Another question I have is kind of open-ended, and I don't know if it'll be easy to answer. Oh, Julie Beck is here. Well, maybe that question is more for Julie Beck, but about the study hall.
Julie's here? Oh, I don't see her.
She just popped up on my thing.
Oh,
but
I see her. There she is.
Hi.
Hi, Julie.
I was just asking if there were any plans for study halls to like work on your personal art at the school. I was asking John and Andres if they themselves had attended study hall. Anyway.
Yeah,
Just
no, I
in
mean,
general.
yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I didn't really understand the question. It was like, if we take some of the, well, what was the question? Sorry.
I'm sorry, it's probably me not being clear. I'm interested in joining like a study hall, which I know Julie had previously offered, where you can
Yeah.
go in and work on your personal stuff and get like eyeballs on your work and just like help moving forward. So my first question was like, are there plans to do that at the school? And then the second question was, I know in the past they had been done, and I was wondering if the two of you had ever gone to these study halls yourself. And then I was like, maybe that's a dumb question because you already have your studios. And
No.
No, it's not a dumb
people
question.
giving
No,
you-
it's not a dumb question.
No, it's really not a dumb question, because we actually do, and I almost all the time ask my teachers, just to see and check it out, and I just want to make sure that everything is going well, and it's always good to have different ideas. Three heads think more than just one. So I always ask John or Antonio or Julie or Garrett. I always ask Garrett about pigments. Like right now, for the figure that I'm gonna be doing is more like Amy's approach to painting. So it's more glazings and all that kind of stuff. And I always ask Julie. Let's go ask Julie. What kind of pigments? If you mix this and that and one on top of the other and blah blah, or just ask Garrett for like different pigments. Because he's more, a little more earthy kind of tones, and the palette is different, and for Julie to Gareth to John or to Amy's palette is just completely different. And so I just want to take like a little things here and there, and then they go and take a look and see, okay, this is working and this is the way to do it, blah blah, blah, and then just walk me through it. So yeah, I think we all pretty much do it. We just don't have like a class to that, just because like we are just working on different projects at the same time. So it's just kind of hard just to be working in one and be like, okay, what's the next step, or how should are we going with that? But every time that we get a chance, I think, and also like with John, right, we just think about new ideas or things like to work on. Or like I'll be just jumping in his studio and be like, hey dude, well, what you working on? And be like, oh, that's cool. And then he asks me things, or then I ask him things. So yeah, I think we are more than motivated to be in those
so
kind of
we're
classes.
always in each other's study halls perpetually.
Oh yeah.
In perpetuity. But yeah, it looks like Julie also answered the other one about study hall over the summer, perhaps, or evening in the fall. Yeah. Thank you, Julie.
Yeah.
I think
we just need we just need one person to do it. who's
Yeah,
gonna do
yeah. Yeah.
it.
It could be like rotating so that it's not the same
Exactly, yeah.
first to help
Yeah.
everybody. Or yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else had any other questions, but my other question is also kind of open-ended, so if it doesn't make sense, that's fine. But what is like the worst advice you've gotten as an artist that you were like, I should never have listened to that?
Oh.
The worst advice.
And if you can't think of anything, you could think of maybe the best advice.
I mean, I had some advice given to me that I didn't listen to, but that I didn't. But it wasn't bad advice. It was when I was trying to decide to become an artist. I had asked a few people their opinions, and they gave me a logical answer. I mean, because it's a tough decision. But I didn't listen to it. So no, I wouldn't say that was bad advice. But I just I didn't. I took it into consideration, but I didn't listen to it. But no, I wouldn't say anybody's given me bad advice. I've been surrounded by my fellow friends and great instructors, so it's all been great.
I think I do have, well, I don't think it was an advice, but like an opinion from somebody that I knew. And I think it was more when I was a musician and I was trying to do it with music. And this person actually told me, like, if you want to live out in music, like you need to be like, top. There's no middle class. It's either you're the top or you're not doing anything and just playing in, no places. But then I didn't, well, I kind of listened to it. I was like, okay, so I need to be, the best, otherwise it's just not gonna work. But then I actually start interacting with more people and more musicians, and I'm really good friends with really good musicians that were playing in Coachella a few weeks ago, and it's like they just living a dream, just traveling all over the globe. They're meeting really good people, good music, and they're doing what they love. So I think that's one thing that I heard for somebody, and I keep it on myself. But then once I realized that it's not really the case, that you actually, if you do what you love, uh, you know, you're just gonna make it. Anyhow, you're gonna find a way to actually, or either live from it or just keep doing it. Because I'm a bartender full time, but then I'm here at the academy. So I'm not living actually from the art, but if I don't do it, I'll be missing it every single day, every single minute. So yeah, I think that's the one thing that somebody told me, and I kind of listened for a little bit, but then realized it was not the case.
Yeah.
Nice, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I just want to say thank you. This is so wonderful. And it's great of you guys to be so unselfish with your time.
Oh,
Our
thank
pleasure,
you so
Brenda.
much, Brenda. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. Happy to have you here with us.
I'm glad to be here with you.
I do have a question for John. Do you have any workshops coming?
Workshops. It's a good question. So, and thank you. I briefly mentioned in passing the one about I have a portrait color study workshop coming up in July. Let me give you the exact date. I think it's July 7th and 8th. Just be sure
So it's 2 days?
2 days. I made a mistake. It's actually July 13th and the 14th. It's over a weekend. Okay. Yeah, so we'll just do color studies. of the portrait, and we'll probably start with grisaille. So just breaking things down by value, get familiar with the whole idea of a planar representation of a portrait, and then we'll proceed to adding some color. Okay, so it's just a nice introduction to.
Is it gonna be from model?
Yeah, from life. Yeah,
from life. Oh, nice.
Yeah, from life. Yeah.
That's great. So that's gonna be the test.
That would be the test. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I have another one in September, 5-day portrait drawing workshop from life in graphite. And that's going to be from September 16th to the 20th. So that's a little bit farther down the line. But if you just want some time with, rendering a portrait, not being rushed, the 5-day usually gives people an ample amount of time. And we go over my sort of procedure to tackling the portrait. Of course, including all the anatomical stuff that I usually talk about into that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And
then I do actually wanted to know, how is that you set up the classes for anatomy? When you think what's the subject is gonna be for, like, because for the people that probably don't know, we have a anatomy class on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then John is the one that directs all those classes, and he has like a subject for for this term, and so he starts going for either proportions or like muscles or like bone structure, and then it's like for the arm, everything that is going on in the arm, how it moves, what's the function for everything, and then for the next term he's gonna be doing like leg, or like a feet, or like a torso, or I haven't actually taken the torso. I don't think we have one with the torso, right?
Yeah, it's been, I think we did a little bit last academic year. It's been a while. So yeah, so I guess but no, it's a great question. If I kind of give the rundown and how I sort of organize it. I mean, the anatomy is sort of morphs as I go into it more. Like this academic year, I've decided to do more of like a deep dive. So it was just lower limb. So everything from pelvis down to foot. Knowing that it probably would take us the 3 terms, and it is, we're on lower leg now. And so the way I structure it is always, I mean, for me, it always has to be from the bone up, because you just need that underlying structural knowledge. So, we started with the pelvis, as we went to the femur, we discussed the patella, tibia, fibula, then foot, did that in detail, understood how that related to the surface, and then we added the muscles on top of that. And then it just deep dives into let's call it like subsections of each of those things. So muscle, last week we were talking about, we identified the muscles of the lower leg. Then we needed to understand how the muscles are influencing the surface contour, so that again, back to this idea of making things intelligible to your eye as you're looking at them, like, oh, what is that change on the calf and why is it occurring? What's that half tone and why is it occurring? So yeah, always this application, getting into shadow shapes, all those things. Really applying to the more artistic bend. So always grounding it in the again, this dialogue between the theoretical and what I'm actually seeing on a model, because I just don't want it to remain too stuck in the So I think next year I'm gonna go do a deep dive into just arm again.
No, nice. All
right.
Yeah,
and hands. Yeah.
Arm and hands. All right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I think we got a couple.
Okay, we got some.
questions.
Yeah. Okay. So do artists still look for critiques after they have graduated from each other? Yes, totally, Susan. Kind of in line with what we were saying about the study hall. I mean, I officially graduated, I think, 2021, but I'm always asking now who are my colleagues, but were my past instructors: Julie, Garrett, Emmy, Eric,
Cindy,
everyone. But even students, I mean, I asked Andress too. I mean, because Andress is sort of both. Andress is an instructor and then also on his final projects. But so we're always talking with each other, getting different opinions. Because sometimes you get in your own little echo chamber. You just need to get some other opinions on some things. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, and also like you can ask about things like, well, why do you choose this subject, or why do you choose to do it this way, you
Yeah.
know? And then that also, like, they are questioning a project is not, attacking them, but it's just like
No,
making
exactly.
sure
That's
that the
great.
person
Yeah.
is actually understanding itself, like
Yeah.
thinking,
Yeah.
okay, I choose this because of that, and then you can actually just start just playing why you choose that, and then realize there's something deeper, and then something that
Yeah.
you probably like want to dive into a little more. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think always asking people is a great way. Having a critique is always good. uh Having a critique, I think it's more about um you know the person that is doing the work, what's going on, more than actually move things here and around, and like just grab it to an idea. It's more like just realize what's going on and see like how we can improve, because that's the way. It's just how can we, well, not necessarily improve, but just how can we move around so many different subjects that we want to describe or anything, right?
Yep. Yep. Right. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And now
Got
Alberta has
someone.
a question. Yeah. When you look at a face or a head to start a portrait, what do you consider first, second, and then third? Very good question. Really, for me, okay. I mean, there's obviously just the looking part first, and I think that's one thing I want to stress. So, like, even with the figure, a lot of us rush into things sometimes, and it's just good to take your time to look and understand what's sort of happening on every level, form level, where's the lighting coming from, how are the shadows forming, what are the key anatomical structures. I mean, things like that. Allow the subject to speak to you, and have your ear, eye, as a metaphor, open your ear to listen to what it's trying to say to you. After that, though, really, I mainly just focus on shapes. I mean, that's my big thing: shapes and proportion. I'm just trying to, a gesture and all those things, and the likeness will come through fidelity to the proportion and the shapes. So I'm really just focusing on that. For instance, yesterday I had a construct class where, for those of you who don't know, we just do quicker, well, not quicker drawings. We do 3-hour poses, and we just do the beginning stages of a figure. And I sometimes have a little bit of time if the class is a little bit lighter, and in between critiques, I'll do some drawing myself. And I was thinking about this very thing, because people had been asking me about capturing likeness and gesture and things like that. And I can't say it's in the back of my mind. It's part of the internal conversation, but I'm not directly addressing it through a certain stroke or anything like that. It's more, I'm just thinking about capturing the proportion and the relation between all the angles and lines, and through, again, listening and being faithful to that, then I get the gesture. So I'm not forgetting about gesture or anything like that. But yeah, so that's my first thing. I'm considering the shapes. Then once I have all of that, as I develop it, then I do have to start thinking a little bit anatomically, because I need to then link up, certain shapes I'm seeing with my knowledge of anatomy, and then having that dialogue with what I'm looking at. Like we were saying about the nose earlier on, like, okay, I see this structure here, and the light's going to hit it this way, and so I expect a shadow shape like this. I expect the halftones to sort of turn in this way. Yeah, and then I just break it down simple to complex, really. I mean, that's what I would say. But the first thing really is, and the most important, that's why I'm sort of stressing it always, is that general proportion and shape. Okay. You're welcome, Jean, and I agree. Jean was just saying that she's thankful to us for running the chats, and that being an artist can be very isolating, and I agree. I really agree with that. I'm glad we have the community. I'm glad that we're doing this as well, and that we can just all come together and talk about these issues, because otherwise we get stuck in our either just stuck in our studios, even when we have the community, or be not having the community necessarily. So yeah, I think it's very important for our development.
Always sharing those ideas, and like just to know that you're not the only one trying to deal with with drawing or the difficulty of materials and everything. It's hard. As we were talking, it's just, if we can have an opinion, like a suggestion or like a guidance, is much easier. It's just people that just see things in a different way, and then you see it in a different way. It just complements. So
yeah.
All right.
Andress, what are you working on these days?
I actually just finished an ala prima project that I wanted to do for Cinco de Mayo. I got my mariachi hat in here. I got it here today.
Excellent.
And then I just upload a video on the tequila shot with the worms. It's just,
Yeah.
It's Cinco de Mayo, it's just taco tequila day.
Yeah. No, it's good.
Yeah. But otherwise,
No, go ahead, Andres. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I'm actually just thinking about the classes about figure that I'm gonna be doing with Amy, and doing the way that she works, and just doing some studies with the pigments and see like what things to work on. And
tell people about that. That's been cool. I've seen you've been doing that. You've been doing all those little tests. Yeah, tell people.
Exactly.
That's gonna be cool to.
Yeah, because I do want to see now this time. I want to have a nice palette. I don't want to be going around just doubting, because the last figure that I work on, it was not stable for me in terms of palette structure. Like I have for reds, I think the reds, it was the big problem that I had, because I just kept switching it so much. I ended up going with the outside red earth, I think.
Okay.
From Rembrandt, and the Persian Indian red, which is like a purpley. It's really good for like pinkish kind of skin tone. But then we have Nate for figure, and he's not that much pinky, So
right.
I think that was a call that I wasn't that sure. So now I just want to see like what should I use. I think I got my reds. I'm gonna be using cut red medium, and then the Indian red, I believe. But then I want to figure out my greens, because I just got it for one, the Terra Verde I like, but I wasn't that sure when I was doing the studies. So you got any preference for greens?
I don't actually use it that much because I use a limited palette when I'm doing I did chrome oxide, which Garrett had actually recommended. For anyone who's chrome oxide green is very, so be careful with it. Visor if you just dab it with some red. So I like the chrome oxide green.
Okay. Because also I wanted to use the green number. This is the one that we use for warm and cool. And actually, I actually think it's beautiful. It's a beautiful green.
It's
kind of.
It's nice. I forget about it, to be honest.
That one is good. All right, I think we got a couple of questions.
So which parts of the most present just in terms of perseverance. Andress. Part of the program did you find most difficult so far?
Oh, me? Which part of the training did you find most difficult? I think the change from bar to cast. I think that because I had to do the whole thing by myself. Well, not without guidance. It was more like, subtract or add things. Just do the addition artistic way, because you're not actually copying what you see in front of you. You actually just
because the on the wall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was the hardest for me. Well,
I agree pretty much that. Like, I had this issue with Val. Not just like for some reason I was. Before I came to school, I no one introduced me to the concept of value. I copy tone, but anyway, so that but jump, and then the getting to the cast that jump, and then of the I should say down to the end. I love it. I took position where we're talking about earlier, make the so to speak, and but yeah, it was time, and yeah, that was trying to maintain the level of how much that was challenging. Yeah, we made it through for the better. Yeah. Very good question. Let's see. So, yes, is my first bit for one in the John Asimacopoulos. And that there's two. One that is mine. Asimacopoulos. And no, I taking yes. So student missing a little bit of that. So did for.
Then I'm having some problems with my computer right now.
I can write. Do you your Instagram?
On my Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your YouTube.
Let me see this.
Look it up on the phone here.
Look it up.
Yeah. Okay, I think I got it. Take V. Is that correct? Dot Castillo dot D. Have you?
I think so. Yeah. That's the one.
So there we are.
All
Here,
right.
Julia.
Oh, thank you, Julia. So much Andress. All right. You can hear me clear?
You're fine. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just for some reason, my audio is not.
You can hear me well.
Not really. Not that well. Let me just turn the the computer off. I think it overheat. So
Okay.
okay, be right back.
All right. Also, if anybody's everybody else, put the and we want to do a little bit of sharing. It's cutting out a bit. Okay. Let me. Okay. How is it? Can everybody hear me? A little choppy.
It's a little choppy.
It's a little choppy. Okay, sorry about. I turned off my video a second here. Yeah, good question. Hopefully you can hear me. By the way, Brenda, it clear? I know my audio is.
I can hear you loud and clear, John.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we've sort of gone towards art of. Yeah, well, I had using the Raphaels. I like them a lot. Yeah, this whole the balloon.
Whoops, you're cutting in and out again.
I'm cleaning it out.
Yeah.
Let me see if that's anything.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, can you all hear me now? I think I switched something up. Yeah, okay, good. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, perfect. So yeah, I would say, yeah, I'm not opposed to the Raphael, but yeah, so notice some issues. And I had started going towards ACMs and putting my own ground on them, and I like that, but it was just a lot of work. So now I'm most of us, I would say, are either stretching or using the artifacts panels, Brenda, with just because they have so many options. I mean, you can do different linens, right? So I've been doing that. And those have been good. I mean, I specifically have been using them because they offer the honeycomb ACM, which is a little bit more rigid than the thinner ACM. Because of the size I'm working at, there was a little bit of a bend and I didn't want that. So those are really rigid and very light, actually.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but for the current series I'm working on, I've been using those with a fine textured linen. I think it's the 538 to be specific.
Okay.
How about you, Brenda? So you said you've been noticing some issues with Raphael?
I had, well, with my Big Ben Ferenz portrait, it has buckled, and so I have to take it to a conservator. I'm going to be taking it down on Wednesday, southern part of the state, to see what they can do with it.
Oh, it seems like I can't hear you, Brenda. I can tell you're speaking, but now Okay, I got it. Sorry, Brenda. It can cut out. Sorry, could you start from the beginning, Brenda? Sorry about that.
Sure. I've used them on a couple of things, and even on my Big Ben Ferenz, that has buckled in a couple of places. Only in the background, but you know, I invested a year of my life into that portrait. So
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. So, wow, what a pain.
We're going to the conservationist at the end of this week, but you know, it's tough to put all that time and effort into something, and I'm doing things, you know, with application correctly.
No, I don't think it was you. I don't think it was you. I'm so annoyed with these whole panel issues. It seems like there's always an issue at some point. It just and with everyone. I don't think it's just one person.
Yeah.
So,
in any size, because my third cast, I believe, or my second cast, I did it on a panel, Raphael panel, and actually worked. So
oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah. It was big. It was really big. But, you know,
that's discouraging. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've actually found my best bet is just with a stretched canvas.
I was just gonna say, Brenda,
go back to the
honestly, I've never had problems with stretched canvas. Even I did a big 6 foot by 6 foot, and that was hard to stretch, but no problem. So I mean, maybe it is one of the better ways.
So are you using pre-cut supports? Are you cutting your own supports? How are you doing that?
Pre-cut. I mean, I for that big one, there's a company called Upper Canada Stretchers that makes very nice, high quality stretchers, and it was a little expensive, but I needed to do it for something that size. So they was heavy duty, came with braces. It was all, I just had to fit it together. Yeah, so it was
cool. Could you
put really good.
Could you put that in the comments, please?
They're definitely worth checking out. Upper Canada.
And then where are you getting your linen?
So it's been a while since I've bought, but it was always from Jerry's. Even when I was doing that I tried the herringbone linen. I did from Jerry's, the Clawsons or Claysons. I don't actually know how to pronounce it, but from Jerry's. And then now with Artifacts. So, and they're obviously they're just gluing it onto the panel.
Actually, Jerry's has some promotions time to time. Like I got 160% off on my roll.
Yeah.
Wow.
The
sales are good on Jerry's.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like that roll, it was supposed to be like 800 or something. I got it for 300.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I've looked at some sites in Great Britain. I've looked at, several different. Great Britain actually had the nicest linen, as far as I could tell. Yeah, there was one site there, and I've forgotten the old place. If you look up Great Britain pigments, there is a store in London.
Okay, Great Britain pigments.
Yeah, and I apologize, I've forgotten the name of the place.
That's okay, but I'll write it here, Great Britain pigments. Yeah.
So
stretch canvas. I mean, it seems in the end it's
there was a reason why they used to
the masters knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. You're welcome, Brenda.
And so, another question. So once you get your raw linen on there, how are you processing it? What have you found is the best process?
So I don't have a lot of experience with that, Brenda. I would say that's Eric's and Garrett's department.
Okay,
I always get it with the primed already.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, it's the only time I've experimented was with when I got a panel, an ACM panel. I put a ground on it. That's the only time I've really experimented with that kind of thing. But otherwise, yeah. Sorry, Andress, I interrupted you. What you were saying.
I also don't have that much experience, but I seen Garrett doing it a couple of times, and also
Yeah.
Dale, when he was here, he was also doing a couple of
Right.
you know, yeah, just explaining how it goes. And I think we should have a video or something.
Oh, we do? Yeah, maybe
Videos.
Dale do one? Yeah.
I believe so. I think Nora was recording or something. So
Okay.
we have a, but yeah, it usually goes with a skin rabbit glue.
mm-hmm,
Yep.
I think it's 2 layers. You do it once, you let it dry for like a month or something.
uh-huh,
I don't remember. Yeah, you just let it dry for a month. Then you apply it once more. Then you let it dry for a little longer than that, and then you put the gesso. You can.
okay, and what, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So was he using a mask when he was mixing the rabbit skin glue? Because I know there are, what were the
I don't-
safety,
I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't, because there was plenty of people around. You know,
Yeah.
he was not just doing it by himself. He was actually doing it with a good amount of people. And also when Dale was doing it, he actually put it in the second floor in the bar room, the skin rabbit, and he would just go and like stare every once in a while. Yeah, so yeah, I think you gotta be careful, of course, but not like a mask on or anything like that. But
yeah,
for me on that, I'll rather ask get it and then let you know.
sure, yeah. I did try an ACM aluminum panel.
Okay.
I couldn't stand it. I did everything, I called natural pigments. I talked to George and Portland. I said, how do I do this? And he told me, and I did, and I was like, oh my goodness. I gave the painting up. I just was like, I'm done.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, what happened? What happened to
it kept sucking. Weirdest thing, you wouldn't think that aluminum would, it must have been the layers of primer that I put on that just sucked the paint right up.
Oh.
And I didn't do, it was almost like it held the first layer of pigment, and then that was it. Putting other layers, subsequent layers on top was really tough, and it just seemed to suck it all in.
Oh.
It was weird.
Yeah, I can't say I loved it, because I did it. I painted all of the studies I did for this series. I did them on the ACM on the ground, and it was convenient because I could cut all of them to the size I wanted, but it was kind of a pain to put the ground on. And then I can't say I loved even the feel of it. So yeah, I understand that.
Yeah,
I like linen.
I do too.
Yeah. I mean, as always, that's a reason why people use it for so long.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like also Zoe is doing, I think she's been doing it a couple of times already with the ACM. She just goes put the ground, and it works for her. It works.
Yeah. No. Some people, and who knows? I even thought about going back to it, so I can't rule it out just right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Of course.
You're welcome, Brenda. Lisa, I see. Yeah, you're saying local painter uses copper panels, and her work is gorgeous. Yeah, no, I definitely heard some people talk about copper. I would like to try it.
Nadine actually did the copper panel for the still life, for the first still life.
Who did that?
Nadine.
Oh yeah. That's right.
Right?
Yeah, right.
Those are interesting. I do want to do one of those. I
Yeah,
know,
it would be nice to try.
I know what guys say to put garlic on the
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think it's, what was the order? I think it was the copper. Then you put garlic for some reason, and then you start painting on top. or
Okay.
yeah, I think that's the order.
Okay. Yeah, interesting.
Thing.
Yeah.
You know, a little more shiny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Maybe Lisa. Yeah.
I think he also said like he opens the, I don't know, the ground for some reason, and then that way the oil can grab into
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
and doesn't slide down or anything like that.
Yeah.
So interesting. That actually make me think, if you have a knife with the tip just copper, you put some garlic, you know, on the blade, and then you do a painting on the blade.
Do a painting on it.
Inspirational work right there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That would be nice. Yeah. All right.
You're welcome, Lisa. We have Eric in the house.
Oh,
I thought I'd peek in.
Yeah. We were just talking about copper and garlic.
yeah, you're the person to ask. How you prepare a canvas, a raw linen canvas? How you prepare it?
Are we stretching it, or are we
Yeah,
putting it on the panel? We're stretching it.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't like priming canvas post. I don't like stretching. It's roundabout. If you've ever stretched raw linen or raw canvas, then primed it, you notice that the grains distorts. You sometimes see it in old master paintings. If I had a raw linen, I would probably loosely stretch it. I would put a size on it, which would probably be, there's actually multiple things that you can use nowadays, but you could get away with using just like a, polyvinyl acetate size for it. Otherwise, you surprisingly could even use things like, oh, I'm sorry, my brain's breaking. It's an acrylic medium, but you could use it as a size, like a golden, or I think it's golden or Liquitex, like one of their one of their mediums. You can just use that as a size. Of course, you also have like the GAC series one, which would help make the fibers more taut. Because with rabbit skin glue, it feels really cool because it's tight like a drum, but it is susceptible to moisture. It expands, contracts over time, causes mechanical failures in the painting, which ultimately leads to cracking, especially if it's stretched.
Okay.
I got a question real quick, just about the
Sure.
sizing, and you were talking about Liquitex. Now, isn't that a water-based product?
Yes, but once, let's say, some like water-based materials, some water-based materials dry, they're waterproof to a degree.
Okay, sorry.
You know what I'm saying? Like
I got
acrylic
it. I
paint
just
is
didn't know if
water-based.
it had some effect on the subsequent layers. That's all.
No, the real purpose for the size is to protect the fibers of the linen from the acidity of your ground and your your oil ground. Your oil ground will be formulated with typically a white pigment, more or less calcium carbonate, and more or less of an oil or oil alkyd mix to speed up that drying time so you can paint on it. But the size really is there for one main purpose, and that is to protect the fibers of the linen from the degradation and the acidity. If you've ever accidentally let oil, spill onto a piece of paper, you'll notice after a few years, it'll become very brittle and you can just pop your finger right through it. The same thing happens with the linen, where the ground and the painting will be intact, but the linen will start to just disintegrate. Way back when, rabbit skin glue it served two purposes. It makes it more springy and taut and rigid, but also protects the fibers. So what I would do if I was going back in time and wanting to paint on something stretched, which I no longer do, I would size it. I would do the ground on a loose stretch, not around the stretcher bars, but I would unroll a big piece of it, have a piece of wood on top sides, like a very large stretcher bar, and lightly with even pressure, put my ground on a larger piece. Then I'd cut off. That way the actual the weave doesn't get distorted, because that very easily happens when you're stretching and priming all on the same one. I just don't like that look, but I would do that. I would probably use a lead ground for that, just because little less absorbency. But with that being said, you can't really use a pure lead oil paint as a ground, because it lacks so little absorbency that it can be somewhat problematic. That the best formulation for an oil ground or oil primer does have more or less calcium carbonate in there for absorbency, which leads to some sinking in. But that's a good thing, because it allows your first few paint layers to really bite into the ground. Now, to kind of reduce sinking in for the duration of the painting, I'd probably use some sort of polymerized linseed oil, like Stand Oil or epoxide oil, which is a co-polymerized blend of linseed oils, especially on the first layers. And I would especially put that into, if I'm doing like an underpainting in browns, umbers, raw umbers, burnt umbers, I'd especially put Stand Oil in it to reduce the amount of sinking in. And certainly also avoid the use of mineral spirits to avoid excessive sinking in for the whole painting. Because if you do your first couple layers, say you do your Camputori or Imprimatur with raw or burnt umber, raw and burnt sienna, or any clay-based pigment, and you use mineral spirits on top of it, the mineral spirits will encourage the oil in that paint to get sucked up into your ground, leaving the paint, those umbers, more kind of exposed and thirsty for oil, and they will get them from the top layers of paint. So if you're ever wondering why, you're doing a painting and it's sinking in before your eyes, you've got 30-40 minutes and then your fresh blacks are already starting to sink in, usually it's a few layers back where the problems actually started.
Wow.
Right. Yeah.
That's adding more difficulty to the whole.
It gets more complex.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you using for panels now?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, just ACM. Just ACM. I like ACM, a light sand, and then an oil alkyd ground.
Oh, okay.
I used that on a 5 by 10 foot big piece of aluminum, and it was beautiful. It was wonderful. I mean, I applied it with a little roller. It went on beautifully. It was ready to paint within 2 weeks, and it went really smoothly. I mean, for mine, because it was so big, it was a corrugated core aluminum panel. It wasn't one of the solid plastic cores. Those you could prime a big sheet of it and then just cut it. as you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, always
Yeah.
the space matters.
So you
What'd you
weren't,
say?
you were
Oh.
not applying any linen to that surface? You were just going straight to the surface after priming, correct?
Right.
Okay,
Because
thanks.
kind of skips a potential problem.
Okay.
Gluing linen onto a small panel is hard enough. So yeah, you could use a regular, PVA glue. You could use you could use Biva film, but at that scale, 5 feet by 10 feet,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't want to deal with a little air bubble or many air bubbles
Yeah,
when the
yeah,
lid
yeah.
started to peel up. I mean, even on a 5 by 10 or 8.5
No.
by 8 by 10, 11 by 14, that happens. No matter how good you think you did it, it's just sometimes those things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, that's a lot of linen. It's like
Oh yeah.
cost on top of it. The panel
Yeah.
at that size isn't inexpensive, and then that's a lot of linen too. I've actually liked painting on panels more and more. I mean, I do like the feel of linen. I definitely do like the feel of linen, but I'm liking panels a little bit more and more. And I also get a more appreciation the more I see of like Renaissance paintings that are painted on panel. I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I kind of like the look of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
It's
It
true.
has a
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
history.
Yeah.
The Brits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the difference, the approaches that you can take on panel to stretch canvas is, I mean, the times that I try the panels is just more difficult actually for me, because I want to be a little more, I don't want to describe everything that's going on, but then it's hard not to do it with a panel. I just see the opportunity, and so I'm like, okay, I can do it this precise. I have the ability to do it now, but with a stretch canvas, I'm more like, it's a difficulties. Like I don't know, the linen just feels different. The ground, their surface is rougher, so yeah, it doesn't allow me to do those things. So yeah.
The spring. I love the spring. If it was a perfect world, I'd choose stretched linen any day of the
Yeah.
week. I just love the
Yeah.
just the spring to it, but I want my paintings to age well.
Yeah. No, it's true.
There's no doubt that panels will age better than stretched.
Yeah.
But you could always paint. You could always start off your painting on a stretched canvas, or stretched canvas or linen, and then adhere it to a panel. So you could always do
True.
that.
Yeah, true.
You get the feel while you're actually painting it, but then you can adhere it to your panel. But then there's another recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
What happens if you mess that up real bad? I mean, goodness.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, the whole panel linen stretched quandary. Yeah. There's like something. Well, thank you, Eric, for going into that. Yeah.
All right. It's getting late here. We're preparing dinner, but I just wanted to
Oh,
come
no,
back.
yeah. Thank
say
you.
how things
Yeah.
are
No,
say how things are
that
going
was
and say
helpful.
hi to everyone.
Thanks,
But-
Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eric.
Yeah.
Brenda, I'm
All
coming
right,
back to Massachusetts, by the way.
It will be great to see you. I get down there about once a month now.
Can't wait to be back. Take care,
Okay.
everyone.
You too.
Yeah. All right, Eric. See you soon. All right, everyone. So it looks like it is 1:08. So are there any questions before we end? Any other questions? Okay. Well, it was a pleasure for me, and I'm sure for Andress as well.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Pleasure to be here for for this and to hear all great questions. You know, it's helpful for me as well. You know, I don't think of this as a one-sided thing. So, helpful for me to hear the questions, helpful to just get different viewpoints and everything. So yeah, thank you for everyone who came. And I'll see you again soon. I think for those of you who come to the next AMA, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm the next one in June by myself. So yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome.
Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
You're welcome. Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, brother.
All right. Stop recording.